Hey, what's up, guys? Ben from My Sports Stop. Here, as always, with Richie Denell. Today, we're going to be talking about free agency.
Yeah.
It's right around the corner, and let's get right to it. Probably the guy who I think is the top free agent. He was surprisingly not tagged by
Yeah.
the New England Patriots, so he'll be entering the free agent market. Dante Hightower.
Yeah, he's unreal. He's a do-it-all, 3-4 linebacker, so to speak. And whoever gets this guy, whether it's re-signing or going elsewhere, he's an absolute stud.
Yeah.
Blitz, cover, run game, whatever you ask, he's going to do it, and he's going to get elite money.
Well, and with the Patriots, they traded away Chandler Jones in the offseason. They traded away Jamie Collins during the season.
Yeah.
Seems like they're saving money for something.
Yeah, I would feel like he's got to be the guy
It's
that
gotta
they're
be him.
saving for.
Yeah.
I can't think of anybody else on the
I mean,
roster
I'm
that's a
thinking
free
maybe
agent.
Malcolm Butler,
Yeah.
an extension soon, but that's about it. Now, wide receivers, this is kind of a bigger year
Yeah.
for wide receivers, and leading that group is Alshon Jeffrey.
Yeah, and I am not surprised one bit that Chicago did not tag him. I think this is a situation where the only thing hurting Alshon Jeffrey is he can't prove to stay healthy.
Yeah.
That's going to be the biggest thing against him based on how much money he gets or where he ends up. I think those two things are going to match up. I think teams that need wide receivers are going to throw a lot of money at him, and he's going to take it, but not necessarily that guy that ends up in a winning spot or the best spot. Just because he's going to look for big money.
And a team that loves targeting big-name free agents is the Washington Redskins.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if they partner him up with Jamison Crowder.
Yeah, not at all.
So one guy that was recently released was
Yeah.
Brandon Marshall.
Yeah, Brandon Marshall is he's had his issues here and there. I'm kind of shocked that they cut him just because I thought him and Eric Decker made such a dual threat at that wide receiver
Right.
position. And the year before, when Fitzpatrick was actually playing well, so did they. And that was, a little bit of a shocker for me. I think, unfortunately, I'm saying this, but I think the team you got to watch out for, where all veterans go towards the end of their career, is the New England Patriots.
That would be insane. But, I mean, you talk about the New York Jets, they got a guy in Nunwa
Yeah.
who was absolutely fantastic this year, showed so much potential. So Washington, I talked about the Redskins. They have a pair of receivers entering the market, Pierre Garcon and Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, Deshaun Jackson has actually openly talked about going back to Philly, which was a little bit
Chip
of a
Kelly's
surprise.
not there anymore,
but,
so.
but right, I think, with Chip Kelly not being there, maybe you can see a reunion. Peterson was a guy that was there with Andy Reid, that maybe Deshaun Jackson has respect for.
Mm-hmm.
But with Pierre Garcon, I think a lot of it is up in the air. He got a big deal from the Redskins. He's getting older, but he's still productive. So I think he's kind of in that tweener stage where either he's going to take a discount to go to a winner, or maybe even re-sign and just stay in Washington, or he's going to get a big deal from a team that's maybe trying to rebuild and wants a veteran.
Yeah. So now probably the younger option out of all these is Terrell Pryor, who had a breakout year in Cleveland.
And not surprising, there are a lot of teams that like Terrell Pryor. This guy at the wide receiver spot, who would have thought we'd have been saying this 3 years ago, that he'd be one of the elite free agent wide receivers in the NFL. This guy's got unreal athleticism. He's huge. He's tall. He's an end zone threat. He can really do it all as a receiver. And the scary part is he's only going to get better.
You're absolutely right. Now, I want to talk about defensive tackle, the big guys, because last year Damon Harrison got a big deal and ended up having just a huge year with the Giants. So we're kind of looking for the next Damon Harrison. One of those guys could be Brandon Williams.
Yeah, Brandon Williams was a name that I've actually consistently saw at the top as one of the top free agents this year. And a couple places I've actually seen him listed as the number one free agent because of the type of impact that he can deliver from that defensive line position. I think Baltimore would definitely look to re-sign him as a young piece that they're trying to rebuild that fearful defense that they once had with Haloti Ngata, Ray Lewis, and Ed Reed. I think they would hope to keep him and continue to build that young core. But if he goes elsewhere, this guy is going to get a freaky, scary contract with a lot of money.
I think you're right. Now, I think the Giants are going to try and bring this guy back, but he's also going to get some big deals. This is Jonathan Hankins.
Yeah, this is a guy who's actually, when he first came into the league, was trying to find his way and was just trying to find his way. Now he's a stud.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, I think the Giants are going to do everything that they can to bring him back. But look for any team still running a 4-3 to try to bring him in.
Now, this guy has just been dominant since he started in the league, and now he's finally looking for that big deal, looking to leave Arizona, Calais Campbell.
Yeah, for whatever reason, his name keeps getting brought up with the Oakland Raiders. I
could see that.
What I don't know if there's a connection there or what it is, but every Oakland Raiders article or every Calais Campbell thing that I read says that Oakland is the spot for him. It would be a really good fit. It's a winner. He did have a lot of success in Arizona. Maybe he wants to continue that. Otherwise, like you said, he's going to get paid.
Well, and who wouldn't want to play with Khalil Mack at this point?
Right, absolutely.
And now another guy who's just been dominant is Don Terry Poe.
Yeah, he's going to get double figures from that nose tackle spot. He's kind of that traditional nose, so to speak, who just eats up space. I think Kansas City would be smart to bring him back, but as we've kind of learned, Andy Reid, those kind of teams don't necessarily spend a whole lot of money and kind of just build their teams as needed. But this guy has unreal athleticism for somebody of that size.
Okay. Now let's talk about cornerbacks.
Yeah.
Now, with this draft class being so strong on corners, these guys might be hurting a little bit for a big deal, but they're going to look for one anyways. A.J. Boye from the Houston Texans, he's still going to get a lot of stories.
Yeah, he's the guy he's the one-year wonder free agent. He's the guy who had that really good year in a contract year who's looking to cash in.
He's this year's Josh Norman.
Right, yeah, and that can be scary because you don't necessarily know if he's going to continue that trend. Two teams that I've seen, Chicago apparently, is a team that needs corners who's possibly looked at getting in on him. Your Green Bay Packers need anybody that they can truly get at this point. So I think teams that are in dire need of corners will try to give him that big contract. But like you said, with all the prospects, we can't really judge what the money's going to be like for these guys.
Now, another big-name corner who's kind of under the radar now because of Boye, Stephon Gilmore.
Yeah, this is a guy that like you said, with Calais Campbell to Oakland, this guy has been pretty much connected to Chicago. He's a guy that I do like. Money pending, obviously, but he's a really, really good player. He did very well in Buffalo. But just one of those guys, like you said, he's kind of sliding under the radar right now and could be a sneaky pickup for somebody.
Yeah, and now our next guy, fresh off the Super Bowl win, Logan Ryan.
Yeah, I think Logan Ryan is a guy who would give a hometown discount to go back just to keep winning. He kind of seems like that prototypical New England Patriot. He could be their next guy who just kind of plays his whole career there. If he does leave, like I said, what the value is for these guys is really hard to judge because of how good the draft's going to be.
Right. So I want to talk about two tight ends who in 2016 came to different teams, but maybe both had fantastic years. First of all, Martellus Bennett.
Yeah, he's another name that I keep saying with the Oakland Raiders as well, kind of a team that needs a tight end and would really take that offense to the next level.
Yeah.
I think Martellus Bennett gets looked over a lot just because he is a little loud, so to speak, off the field.
Right.
And he does say some things that maybe most players wouldn't say, but he is a heck of a football player, and wherever he goes, that offense is going to get taken to the next level because of his ability to catch a ball.
And you were talking about with New England, a lot of people take hometown discounts to return to New England to be a winning team. Martellus Bennett is not that kind of guy.
No, not at all.
He won his Super Bowl. He's going to go after the money, which is... It's no problem at all.
No problem.
Now, another guy was big in the playoffs for the Packers, Jared Cook.
Yeah, Jared Cook was surprisingly took a huge discount, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to what his value was to come to Green Bay in the first place. Whether he continues to show them that love is yet to be seen. There's not really a lot of you're not really hearing a lot
No.
from his camp in terms of what they plan to do. But he's a guy who could have had that good year, and now he's looking to cash in on a longer deal. Whether that's in Green Bay, I think Green Bay would be a good spot for him to just continue to stay and be. But he could end up moving on for a longer and bigger deal.
And, if you look at the stats, they're not all that impressive.
Right.
And he missed a lot of games,
Yeah.
too, mid-season. But he was such a valuable asset for that offense, for Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
And, I mean, you look at that play against the Cowboys that
yeah.
put them in field goal range to win the game.
Yeah.
I don't know how many other players could have made that catch.
Right.
So, I think him returning to Green Bay is inevitable.
Yeah.
Let's talk about quarterbacks. It's not a strong class for quarterbacks,
Nope.
but a lot of big names
Yeah.
per se because they're recognizable.
Yeah.
And the first one is Colin Kaepernick.
I think the first question you have to ask yourself is football over for Colin Kaepernick.
Okay.
I mean, this guy has really fallen a long ways without Jim Harbaugh there running that same system. He's obviously not a fit for Shanahan. Shanahan likes, having developed Matt Ryan, and he was with Kirk Cousins before that. He likes a certain system and obviously a certain quarterback.
Right.
Kaepernick is one of those guys who, where he can go is going to be so selective because he's one type of a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Colin Kaepernick would be a great fit as a backup to Cam Newton. I think in that system he would be very successful. If Cam Newton, heaven forbid, would go down with an injury, he would be the perfect fit to go in versus somebody like Derek Anderson. Maybe a situation like Buffalo, who's looked for those running quarterbacks as of late. But the market for him is so little because of his skill set.
Right. I think he's going to have to swallow his pride and kind of take the rest of his career as a backup quarterback. Speaking of backup quarterbacks, this guy's been a pretty good backup, Brian Hoyer.
Yeah, I would love to see Chicago re-sign him. Maybe as the incumbent starter, so to speak, a guy who could start day one if they do draft a quarterback isn't necessarily ready to go. He's a guy who can win you games, but he's not going to be the face of your franchise. As you said, he's a really good veteran backup who's kind of paid his dues and been around the league quite a bit. Would like to see him stay in Chicago, but I think he's also a guy who could end up just saying, hey, I want to go play for a winner and try to cash in on the Super Bowl.
Now, this guy probably went from having his best year in 2015 to his worst year in 2016. Is Ryan Fitzpatrick done?
That's what I was going to ask you. I think when you start the conversation with him, the first question is going to be, is anybody going to want him?
Yeah.
I mean, he made such a stink about the way that Jets situation happened, and the Jets continued to not say anything, and they said, hey, we're putting this on him. But yet he just continued to stir the pot, so to speak, while he was a free agent, kept saying, well, they're not giving me what I want. I'm not getting what I want. And does a team really want to put up with that? I don't know.
And I think that's really interesting. He's definitely not a starter anymore. That ship has sailed.
Yes.
But I could see him as a backup somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing for a team to sign him.
Maybe somewhere like Detroit.
Yeah, or maybe even though he's a little older anyway, with Carson Palmer, who has injury issues.
Sure. Yeah, I could see that. Now, this guy for the Jets, it seems like he's been their scapegoat for the last 4 or 5 years, Geno Smith.
Yeah, I think somebody's going to give him a chance, but he's another guy. I mean, is football in his future? I mean, when he was given chances, he didn't play well. He's been hurt since he's been drafted. He's one of those guys where I think he's just going to have to take whatever it is that he can get and find his way either as a backup or go to a team that's going to sign 2 or 3 quarterbacks to try to find a starter.
Right. It seems like his NFL journey has been frustrating from the start, from dropping out of the first round to battling with Mark Sanchez to losing his starting job multiple times to now where it seems like he's an unwanted free agent.
Right.
Now, one guy he's not a free agent yet. He's being talked about in the trade market, but a guy who could become a free agent is more than certainly going to move teams, Tony Romo.
Yeah, Romo was a guy that I think if you're in a win now situation, maybe somebody like the Denver Broncos, or if the Washington Redskins decide to move on from Kirk Cousins, which has been talked about the last couple of days, those teams would be perfect for Tony Romo because Romo can win. We've seen Tony Romo win games. He can get things done. I don't think Tony Romo is given necessarily the credit that he deserves for the things that he's been able to accomplish throughout his career. And like I said, I think if you're on the board, a borderline playoff team, or even a team that's maybe a playoff team but not quite contender, Tony Romo can take you to that next level.
Now, I wanted to save running backs for last because it features a guy who is once in a generation.
Yeah.
AP.
Yeah, Adrian Peterson. I mean, a lot of the teams that are interested in are teams that you're going to think about when you think about running backs. The Packers, our team, over the last couple of years, been talking about that for a while. He tweeted the New York Giants. He apparently made comments about being interested in going to Oakland, which would be completely insane.
I've
thinking
heard
about that
Dallas.
team. And Dallas would be going home for him, so to speak. Like you said, this is a once in a generation guy, but when it comes down to it, he's getting old. He's been hurt 2 of the last 3 years, suspended. Mm-hmm. How much football does this guy really have left after Minnesota basically ran the tires bare, so to speak?
Yeah, that's a question I think a lot of people are going to be asking. But I mean, why would you not want AP on your team?
Right? Yeah, I think you would want AP regardless. It's just for how much.
Yep. Now this guy was cut by the Chiefs, but he's had a spectacular career. Jamal Charles.
Yeah, I actually thought this was kind of a shock. I mean, maybe not to anybody else, but I didn't expect this cut to actually happen.
Neither did I.
I didn't see this coming at all. But apparently they think they can move on without him. I think you have to list, the same teams that are talking about AP. You have to put Jamal Charles at those same teams because if you lose out on AP, I think their next phone call is going to be immediately to whoever Jamal Charles' agent's going to be.
Well, Philadelphia's been another team I've heard a lot kind of partner him up with Ryan Matthews. Yeah. That'd be pretty good. Now, again, we have the younger option here, Latavius Murray.
Yeah, I think Murray is a really good running back that kind of gets overlooked because he's not necessarily the number one option in Oakland. He was a 1,000-yard back a couple years ago. When he plays and gets the ball, he performs, but they don't need to give him the ball in order to win, which is something that is hurting him, so to speak. He's a good back, and I think he fits a certain system. He's a downhill power guy.
Yeah.
But he can carry the ball 20 to 30 times a game. Maybe if he's willing to take a cheaper deal, because Peterson and Charles are going after those big ones, he could be a name that I think would be a perfect fit for a Green Bay Packers because he is so productive when he does touch the ball, and obviously with Green Bay, Rodgers is going to throw the ball.
Right. Well, I'm going to stay in the NFC North. Minnesota Vikings seems like like I said, he's the younger option to a guy like Adrian. Yeah. And Minnesota, without Peterson, they're pretty barren without a running back. Yeah. So throw a guy in like Latavius, and they're still kind of a team on the edge of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now, one guy who was hurt all year, that maybe hurt his stock, Eddie Lacy.
Yeah, I think this is another guy that you have to ask. I mean, is football enough of a priority for him to stay in shape and to try to remain healthy? Because those two things have been the biggest things for him since playing in Green Bay. And when you look at how his career has gone, you have to put it parallel with Trent Richardson, who came from the same school, is a similar size, and had that similar very good rookie year and didn't pan out to be anything after.
Well, I think this whole weight scandal has kind of been overblown a little bit. He lost weight,
right?
And he gained muscle too.
Yes.
I thought he did a good job at that. Unfortunately, we didn't see him play at all because of an unrelated injury. Yeah. But I think this actually almost helps Green Bay because he's going to be a cheaper option now. The Packers still need a running back. They can't move on with Ty Montgomery as their starter, maybe as a third down back, but not as a starter. And I think they can bring back Lacy on maybe a 1-2 year deal.
Yeah.
So and then still go after a running back in the draft.
Yeah, Green Bay is a team that needs a running game to help Aaron Rodgers.
Absolutely. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Remember to go on our website, mysportstop.com, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more original videos.